And welcome back. Food trucks in Hong Kong have taken another step towards becoming a reality. The government has unveiled 16 winners from a cook-off challenge, and their dishes will be served in the first food trucks here. Winna Wong takes a closer look.
A burger called Notorious PIG. A black sandwich with Iberico ham, luncheon meat, and scrambled eggs. And American-style baos. These are just some of the 16 winning creations in the cook-off challenge. It's all part of the government's food truck pilot scheme. Earlier this year, the government opened applications to the public and invited people to submit their ideas. A total of 192 applications were submitted, which were later narrowed down to 51. Yesterday, judges got a chance to taste the different offerings, and finally, these 16 applications stood out above the rest to win the cook-off. Angela Huang is one of the winners with her Dragon Eye Fruit Bowl.
Obviously, I'm super thankful to be given this opportunity, and I really appreciate that this was open to startups and entrepreneurs and small businesses or even big companies. I think it was a very inclusive competition, and I really appreciate that.
These 16 contestants may have won the cook-off challenge, but there's still one more obstacle to overcome. Now they need to apply for a food truck license, which is valid for 2 years. Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Greg So says he hopes the whole process can be finished by August, and the food trucks can be up and running by the end of this year. Winna Wong, TVB News.
The High Court has refused to hear a legal challenge to a move by the Electoral Affairs Commission to require LegCo hopefuls to sign a confirmation form pledging support for the basic law before nominations for the elections close on Friday. A hearing will be held next month to decide whether the court will accept the judicial review. Adam Hsu has more.
Hong Kong Indigenous spokesperson Edward Leung, who wants to run in the New Territories East geographical constituency, and League of Social Democrats Avery Ng and Chen Tak-cheung applied to the High Court on Monday to challenge the Electoral Affairs Commission's decision. They wanted the judicial review to be heard before the end of the nomination period on Friday. Senior counsel Martin Lee, who represented Leung, stressed the urgency of the hearing. He said the confirmation form amounts to screening based on one's political beliefs. Lee argued it would destroy public confidence in the electoral system. Lee said the election must not be allowed to take place under such a dark cloud. And with the electoral system's independence and reliability undermined, even waiting for the hearing for 1 day is too long. Johnny Mok, representing the Electoral Affairs Commission, insisted it was not appropriate for the court to interfere with ongoing elections, adding those who are unhappy with the results can file an election petition afterwards. Justice Thomas Au concluded the judicial review was not urgent because the Commission's requirement is not binding. He added even some candidates who haven't signed the form have been declared eligible. Au said if the court interferes with the intermediate electoral proceedings, including the nomination, it would have a negative impact on the election.
Obviously, we are disappointed at the decisions. We hope that the court would have be able to resolve the matter before the nomination closing day.
Justice Au also acknowledged the case was in the public interest to be heard and requested the candidates and the Electoral Affairs Commission come back to him with a date for a hearing as early as possible. Adam Hsu, TVB News.
The Registration and Electoral Office has received the nomination forms of 19 lists of candidates running in the New Territories East geographical constituency. Here's Anne-Marie Sim.
In addition to the one led by Edward Leung, the other lists of candidates in New Territories East are headed by Lam Chuk Ting, Eunice Yung, Christine Fung, Dominic Lee, Elizabeth Quat, Fernando Zheng, Gary Fan, Gary Chan, Bowie Howe, Tang Ka Pugh, Alvin Yeung, Leung Kwok Hung, Raymond Chan, Raymond Mack, Letitia Lee, Liu Tin Xing, Estella Chan and Horace Chin. Anne-Marie Sim, TVB News.
The police issued more than 37,000 fixed penalty tickets as they wrapped up the second round of their week-long crackdown on illegal parking yesterday. Officers say with the number of fixed penalty tickets issued from last Wednesday to yesterday, at least $11 million will be added to government coffers. The campaign targeted illegal parking and other offenses, in particular double parking and stopping in restricted zones. But the number of tickets issued during this round of the operation was smaller than the first time. The police also warned they will continue to carry out similar operations and issue tickets without warning.
A man pleaded guilty to manslaughter at the High Court today for stabbing his autistic son to death 2 years ago. The 61-year-old father told the court he couldn't bear the thought of his son having to live in this world for a long time. He admitted stabbing the 15-year-old while he was asleep at their home in Yunlong back in June 2014. An autopsy recorded multiple stab wounds on the boy's body. The defendant faced 1 count of murder, but he pleaded guilty to manslaughter today, which was accepted by the prosecution. He will be sentenced on August 11th.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry urged his Philippine counterpart to exercise restraint in his country's dispute with China over territorial claims in the South China Sea. Kerry met with Philippine Foreign Minister Perfecto Yasay ahead of a meeting with newly installed President Rodrigo Duterte. High on the agenda with Yasay was the recent ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague, supporting Manila in a dispute with Beijing over claims in the South China Sea. Kerry said the U.S. doesn't take a position on the dispute, but it supports the rule of law and expects both sides to comply with the decision. China rejects the ruling and wants talks with countries directly involved in the dispute.
What we want to do is urge people to not try to build up the tensions. Don't take provocative actions. Leave the space here for people to be able to find a way forward that meets the needs of the region, of the nations, and also respects people's rights and obligations.
Chinese researchers have confirmed an underwater sinkhole at the Xisha Islands in the South China Sea, also known as the Paracels, as the world's deepest blue hole. A blue hole is an underwater sinkhole. It's formed by the erosion of carbonate rocks and appears as a dark blue circle of water. Using an underwater robot, Chinese researchers have explored the Dragon Hole in a coral reef in the Xisha Islands for almost a year. They found it to be just over 300 meters deep. That surpasses the current record of 202 meters, held by Dean's Blue Hole on Long Island in the Bahamas. They also found more than 20 fish species and other marine organisms at the upper level of the sinkhole. But the blue hole is almost oxygen-free below 100 meters, meaning life is unlikely there. All right, Chris, what do you have for us today?
All sorts of things.
Okay.
And some Russians who are not going to go to the Olympics. At least 105 athletes from the 387-strong Russian Olympic team have now been barred from the Rio Games over the country's doping scandal. International federations in canoeing, sailing, rowing, and modern pentathlon are among those that have ruled out Russian athletes. On the other hand, the World Archery Federation has cleared all 3 Russian athletes to compete at the Games.
They have never tested positive in the past. We've tested them extensively.